Hey everybody, Tony D and little Joan here with your final hot take and video of the evening. I'm just going to go over some headlines over Gab Trends because, man, I got a whole situation here with my basement flooding, my fridge going out, my food's gone, all my food thawed out. I still haven't finished my taxes. I was almost done, and now the basement's flooded, and I got to deal with that. So it's just a mess over here. But it's a mess in the news too. QAnon push theory that Trump will be made president again next week. Look, just because, and I'm talking to the Q guys here. Q guys, I told you what would happen after January. They were all saying, "Oh no, January 6th, it's all going to change." There was a tiny sliver of a hope that that was going to happen, but it didn't. And I told you exactly what would happen when that didn't happen, when that was likely not to happen. And what I said was, Q will come up with an excuse to push the whole thing back, and he did, or the people who follow Q did. And what did they say? Oh, now it's March. The same thing's going to happen next week. It's supposed to be March 4th. On March 4th, Trump will not be president, and they will push it back again. You got to stop following this stuff. It was fun to watch before. And yes, there were a couple of coincidences and a couple of things that seem to coincide with reality, but the longer this keeps going, the more it doesn't coincide with reality. The reason it coincides with reality sometimes is because of just dumb luck and the fact that people pushing this want it to continue. They're either grifting or it's a psyop or both. And I tend to think it started as a psyop to get at Trump's base. Okay? Some of this is a psyop to go after, to discredit Trump's base. They want to discredit people who would go after these people in a legal, sensible way. QAnon, reading quatrains and symbols and all kinds of stuff, this is not credible. You got to stop. You got to stop. It's just hurting the cause. And I promise you, some of these guys are psyop guys. They're intelligence guys who are manipulating you. They did the same thing to Antifa. Absolutely. Absolutely, I believe that. Antifa was being manipulated because they needed them. They're useful idiots, and they served a purpose. And the purpose was to stir things up against Trump. The QAnon guys, their purpose for the deep state, whatever you want to call it, is to discredit Trump and the populist movement. They play 4D chess, man. Yeah, they play like that. They're very sophisticated. Now, whether or not it works, well, it doesn't work if you don't believe this stuff, and you shouldn't. So stop reading those quatrains. They're not sensible. No charges after Klan flag hangs next to black family's home. I didn't know there was one of those. Uh, you know, do I condone? I don't like this, but I don't think that's illegal. So I'm not sure what charges you would charge, other than being a jerk. My advice is just to ignore him, move. This is Detroit. I kind of think it's not really the kind of place where a lot of racists are going to be welcomed. So destroy the flag and be on your way. Don't give these guys more attention. The worst thing you can do is give these guys more attention, these racist guys. Without attention, they just fade away. They're pathetic. Just ignore them. As you should ignore the pathetic leftists on Twitter. Black Liberation Autonomous Zone, Orisha land forming in Austin. See, this is the kind of stuff that is bad, too. I mean, it generates racism. You're giving the white racist ammo, and you're swelling their ranks with stunts like this. This is not going to be good, and this is just as bad. Black nation, white nation, a nation based on race is just insanity. Study: Biden amnesty would import California-sized foreign population. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, it's from Breitbart, but I could see that. Biden doesn't really want any limits. He thinks everybody who comes across the border is going to be a Democrat, like automatically. And like I said, that may be true for a while, but as the populist movement grows, he's just really importing future Republicans. It's all gonna turn. Um, there's a lot of quote rot in the Biden economy, says Trump confidant Peter Navarro. Yeah, I think we all figured that out. It's because Democrats really don't understand the economy. Their idea of stimulation is like, oh, we'll just give people a bunch of money. Oh, well, where are you going to get that money? Oh, we'll just raise taxes. Well, you end up taking the money. You end up taking $10 and stimulating two. That's doesn't make any sense. And that's from the Gateway Pundit. Another one is FBI tortures Proud Boy member kept in isolation for 23 hours a day while awaiting trial for bashing window out in U.S. Capitol. Faces 20 years in prison. Seems excessive. I don't think he'll get that long. I hope he doesn't. That seems too much for bashing out a window, even in a government building. Do I think he should get something? Oh, yeah. Yeah. At the very least, he should get a massive fine and some sort of order to stay away from the Capitol for the next 10 years or whatever. But prison for 20 years? Come on. There are people who've committed murder don't even do 20 years. And let's be honest. I mean, breaking a window in the Capitol building's bad, but it's not 20 years bad. A year at most. I would give him a year, maybe. So, I think he's fading. Republican calls Trump's CPAC speech a dud. Yeah, and that Republican is former Republican Governor John Kasich. Oh, I wonder how Trump did in his speech. Let's ask one of Trump's enemies. Excuse me, sir, who hates Trump. What do you think Trump did? Oh, I thought he did terrible. Oh, what a shock. So, yeah, that's just nonsense. Trump's speech was really good. It was really good. It was 90 minutes, and he was rested, and he hit every note. He said some great stuff in there. It was up to date. I mean, it was right up to the minute. He is on top of it. A really good speech. So, I mean, I think Trump is fading. He's fading. You're fading. The anti-Trump group is fading. The neocons are out, man. And Kasich is in that camp, so he's done. Wray. Disgraced FBI Director Christopher Wray says no evidence Antifa left-wing groups played role in January 6th Capitol riot. That's simply not true. They had guys who were members. And to be a member of Antifa, you just merely have to say, I'm a member of Antifa. And it wasn't all Antifa, but there were guys there. Now, to say no evidence, that's not true. There's some. It's not a lot. There weren't a lot of guys. It certainly wasn't the majority. Not anywhere close. About 5 or 6 guys showed up to cause more trouble. That's what Antifa does. But they're idiots. Well, I shouldn't say the guys who showed up are idiots. The guys who convinced them to show up aren't idiots because they didn't show up. They convinced these guys to do the dirty work and take the risk. And I told you that's what these organizations do. You always make the young new guys take all the risk. You direct things behind the scenes, and you send these new guys off to get arrested. And then as they get arrested, you say, oh man, that's so unfair. And you send them some food every once in a while when they're in prison or something. You send them a few bucks and keep them going. And then when they get out, you make sure you're standing at the gate. And guess whose organization they're more loyal to? Yours. They've been trapped in jail for, I don't know, a year or two. And then they get out and they go right back into your arms. And they're grateful as hell that you stood by them during their incarceration, which will probably be terrible and harden them. So that Christopher Wray says no evidence. You can't trust a guy like him. He was not. First off, he's not really a pro-Trump guy at all. He's part of the problem in Washington. He's a guy who's been in the establishment for too long. He's in the FBI. The FBI is deeply corrupt at this point, or was. And you just can't trust a guy like this. Of Of course he's going to say, oh, there's no evidence of Antifa. Oh, yeah, it's only riots every day in Portland for like hundreds of days. Legal team warns of Equality Act nightmares to come. Yeah, I said it. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be an absolute disaster. Every school district's going to be sued. You're going to have problems with kids touching each other on both locker rooms, and the parents are just going to unleash, and they'll really be suing their own school districts out of existence. That's the ironic thing. You school the school, and they're totally incompetent, but guess who pays the price? You do. You sue your school, you get money, and guess whose taxes go up? Yours. Now, maybe you could sue, get the money, and move to another district that isn't incompetent, but, either way, they're all kind of incompetent is the problem. Dems pulled trigger, mandating background checks for all gun sales. Yeah, that's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's going to be an absolute disaster. It's going to be challenged in court, and it's going to be overturned. Let's see. AOC claims racism after New York police deploy robotic dog. Everything's racism at AOC. The robotic dog is worrisome, though, because it's essentially just a camera on legs walking around spying on people. And it's just going to be super expensive, and it's not, it'll be a novelty for like a week, and then people will be kicking it over, and they'll figure out a way around it, and it's just going to cost the city more money, and it's not going to save cops. What are you going to do? Replace cops with a robotic dog? For what? So it takes even longer for them to show up to help? No, that's not what New York needs. What New York needs is to get rid of Bill de Blasio, numero uno. Barring that, it needs jobs and business, which you can't have while he locks down the city, along with Cuomo locking down the state. So that's the real problem. You have little robotic dogs, Terminators running around. It's not going to make the city any safer as long as people are destitute and jobless. You got homeless people staying in fancy hotels, wrecking them, and still sleeping on the streets. You got people leaving in droves. Bill de Blasio is destroying the city. And as I said in a previous video, I think it's because indirectly they're trying to lower the real estate market so badly in New York that they're actually trying to hurt Trump indirectly. Because he owns so much real estate in New York, it'll cost them like, I don't know, $100 million. But I think that's part of it. But some good news. Texas Governor Abbott announces plan to fully reopen businesses and end state mask mandate. Good for you, man. I'm thinking about Texas. I'm thinking about Florida. Thinking about South Dakota. Maybe. It's a little too cold there. The other two states definitely. Although Kristi Noem, she's so beautiful. I guarantee you New Jersey will be second to last. We'll still be doing quarantines like in the next year. It's like England here. But we'll be the last. We'll have to kick out our governor in order to get rid of these mandates. And hopefully it'll be a Republican that, makes sense, not a Chris Christie. So, UK government scientists, Britain should wear masks with 3 layers now. So that's how it's going in the UK. They're going the wrong way. Biden says Mexico an equal as he dismantles Trump's immigration policies. That's just not true. And it's not racist to say that. Mexico is a different country. We're not equal. They beat us on a few things. But we're top tier, baby. We're number one in the neighborhood. To say that we're equals, what does that mean? What is Biden trying to do? You can't have a woke foreign policy. You can't say, well, we're equals. Let's just close down the border and you can come here whenever you want. You're creating a serf class by letting people from the southern border just flood into the country. There's no jobs for them. They're going to be working illegally and they'll be undercutting everybody. It depresses wages. And we all know it now. We saw what Trump did. He strengthened the border. He enforced immigration. He didn't do anything other than enforce the already existing laws. The Democrats want to have it both ways. They don't want to remove the laws. At least if they remove the laws, you could say, well, they're at least adhering to their own law. No. They say, oh, well, we have a bunch of unjust laws, so we're just not going to listen to them. That's the recipe for insanity. Because if you could not listen to those laws, well, there's a whole bunch of laws we'd all like not to listen to, right? So it doesn't make any sense. So, Biden saying, oh, we're all equal. I mean, it's just a bunch of nonsense. We had the Mexican government keeping the border safe for us, which was the equivalent of like Mexico paying for the wall to a certain extent. Now he's going to just dismantle the whole thing and flood the country with illegal immigrants. It's insanity. And he knows exactly what he's doing. He's not that stupid. He's not that far gone. He knows this is going to help his corporate buddies. He knows it. He wants them to get back to a point where we were during the Obama administration. Oh, you're just going to have to accept it, everybody. You never get unemployment under 10% or 9%. Just got to accept it. It's the way it is. That's what he's headed for. He's pushing this as hard as he can. And it's going to cost the Democrats everything. Not just him. Everything. Joe Biden's DHS chief pushes, quote, all society effort to help migrants. See, it's not good enough just to open the borders. You got to help the migrants first. It's crazy. It's crazy. How about helping people in this country, Joe? We have migrants already in this country that need help. Oh, well, let's just pile them in. Governor Andrew Cuomo going down in flames. Third accuser now. He's done. He's so done. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Goodbye. Biden's been in office for over a month. Still no plans for a solo press conference. He can't do one. I don't think he can. If he does a solo press conference, that'll be it, man. He'll fall to pieces. He's not going to do a State of the Union. He's going to keep avoiding it until they basically demand it, which they won't do until they, the forces that want Kamala Harris to be in charge will eventually do that. They got to get Biden to a point where all the crap legislation they know is unpopular, they want to dump it all on him and then bring in Kamala. See, Joe Biden went too far. But don't worry, Kamala Harris is in now. Yeah, he was going crazy and he's lost his mind, but now Kamala Harris. That's the plan. Fox News' Carlson, the party that runs Baltimore and East St. Louis is going to make the Middle East a much better place. Yeah, right. Tucker's been great, as always. He's the one shining bright spot at Fox News, really, and maybe a couple others. But, yeah, I mean, this is the joke. The Democrats are done, man. They're done, and they put off their reckoning too long. I say vote them all out. I mean, literally all of them. Force them to get another party. Warren introduces wealth tax for Biden's Build Back America agenda. Oh, that'll be great. To watch all the millionaires flee the country like they did in France. That's exactly what they did in France. Look, when you're a millionaire, you can live wherever you want. Pick up your money, leave. And that's what all these people will do. They'll find a loophole to hide their money offshore, and they'll avoid this wealth tax. Yeah, good luck with that, Warren. If it actually impacted these people, it would be shot down in a heartbeat. It wouldn't even be proposed. Ron DeSantis continues to be awesome. He unveils statewide effort to address Chinese influence. Good for you. And Michigan professor says he's been discriminated against for 40 years for being a white man. 40 years. That would be all the way back to 1981. Possible. I mean, they were still doing some of this woke stuff back in the 80s. Not as much. It was always laughed at. But in college, yeah. Beer virus, U.S. A third of all military personnel refused to receive vaccine. I don't blame them. So, yeah, that's about it. Supreme Court rejects Sidney Powell's lawsuit challenging certain results in Wisconsin and Arizona. But Supreme Court did hear a landmark harvesting polling location case. So some good news. Some good news. And that's about it. That's about it. I don't know what's going to happen over the next couple of months. Much like Trump's, gung-ho, amazing presidency, Biden's is just depressing and sad every day and horrifying. Exactly. All right, Joan. I'm going to put you on the floor because she wants to run around, I guess. I don't know, smell her own farts. But yeah, Biden's is as depressing as Trump's was exciting. But don't let it get you down. Because Biden, I don't think he's long for the presidential chair. I mean, his own people are complaining. A lot of Democrats are complaining. There's a lot of Biden regret out there. And it's going to keep building. It's going to keep building. And eventually, the Republicans will figure out a way to stymie the vote, or at the very least, the progressives will. Because they're so full of themselves. They think they know everything. They're going to do so much, and then they don't. So, it's not as bad as it looks. But, they pointed out something interesting on the Lotus Eaters today. They've got the soldiers, in the Capitol. At the same time, they noticed that there are a lot of military guys who are into the Q stuff. And then they turned around and fed them bad food. Not a smart idea. They're treating the soldiers horribly at the Capitol. I mean, there's a bunch of them in the hospital. They're sick from undercooked chicken, I think it was. It's like, what are you doing? I mean, here was an opportunity for the Biden administration to score major, major points and say, look at us, we're cool. Instead, they completely, they made the soldiers sleep in a garage. Then they're like, oh, wait, you're going to stay now. And then they still slept in a garage, and now they're being fed crap. So they're still sleeping in garages, by the way. Trump offered to put them up in hotels. The Democrats can't do anything. At the very least, they could have said, you know what, set up tents on the front lawn of the White House or something to get the guys, a good place to sleep. The parking garage was just about the worst place in the world to put these guys. What are you doing? Biden is a mess, man. He's a mess. I think he's so concerned about his money and his graft. He just really doesn't care about the rest of the country or anybody else. It's like he thinks at any minute he's going to be removed from office or something. I better get all this done now before I get impeached. There's no chance of that happening until 2022, Joe. I mean, really? You gotta be this greedy this fast? You still got 2 years, almost 2 years ahead of you before that's even a possibility. And God willing, the Republicans take both houses and just kick them to the curb.